Hi everyone, and welcome back to this Introduction to Macro's series. In this video, we'll cover making a macro in the form of a group, containing a selection of nodes. Picking up from the last video, we'll use this subdivision node as an example. Select the node and hit G on the keyboard to make a group. I'll expand this group and move the contents to one side, so that you can see that this node is contained inside the group we just created. Set the edit flag to both the attribute set and the group nodes by hovering over the node and pressing E on the keyboard. Hold Shift and press E to select multiple nodes. So now we have the parameters visible for both of these nodes. However, the group node does not have any parameters yet, so we're going to populate it now. And we'll do that with the parameters we want control over. In this case, the only parameters that we would really change is the cell statement and perhaps the attribute that I'm going to set. So firstly, we need to create parameters at the group level. This can be achieved by creating user parameters. Select the wrench at the top of the Parameters tab and choose Edit User Parameters. You can create these user parameters on any node in Katana, except for the super tools, which includes nodes such as the Gaffer3 node, the Network Material Create node, Importomatic, and any other super tools that you might be using. To add a user parameter, choose Add, and there'll be a drop down of different types of values. We'll first make a parameter for the attribute, which is a string. We'll then rename it by selecting the wrench and rename parameter. Let's keep it simple and call it attribute. Then we can type in the value, which is subdmesh. Okay, so right now these parameters are not connected, but that's what we're going to do next. The most efficient and easy way to do this is to set the parameter in the attribute set to an expression and use a reference expression. Set it to =:user.attribute. So you may be wondering, why am I doing this and how do I know which expression to use? Well, reference expressions are covered in the Katana Developer Guide, which will explain how they work and how to use them. So the equal symbol will find the value of another parameter. The caret symbol will go up a level to look for those parameters there. So in this case, it will be looking in the group node. The slash will find the parameter of the node with a given name that is then specified. And the dot will find a parameter relative to its enclosing parameter, which is user. Once done, this parameter will highlight in blue. It's now reading the parameter from the group node. So let's do the same for the cell parameter. Add a new user parameter. This will also be a string. Name it cell selection. And we'll set this to a cell parameter as well. Click on the wrench and widget type and set it to a cell statement. As you can see, there's very little limit to what we can create here. Now we'll set this parameter to read from the group nodes. We'll do this in exactly the same way. Right click, make it an expression, type in =:user.cellSelection, and it will then highlight in blue. Drag in any path into that parameter. And now we've successfully created a macro containing nodes. In this case there's only one, but there's really no limit to how many nodes a macro can contain. And by repeating processes, you'll get a better understanding of how you can streamline your workflows and make things work faster in general. In this case, this parameter could be true or false, or we could have a drop-down menu, so we wouldn't even need to type in the value ourselves. I'll create one now just to demonstrate. Select the wrench, and in the widget type options, you could set it to pop-up menu, for example. In the widget options, you can add choices. So I'll add polymesh. Now we can switch across both parameters and see how this is behaving in the live render. Once we're happy with our customized node, you can select Finish Editing User Parameters. If you ever wanted to change something, you can select Edit User Parameters. And there are a few options that you can set while we're in editing mode. Select the wrench, and you can find two extra options at the bottom. One of them is Toggle Group Node Appearance, and this will make the group look like a single node. You can always see its contents if you click Control and the middle mouse button on the node. The other additional option is Show User Parameters at top level. This will only be visible after you finish editing the node. It will remove this parameter group called User from being visible. The only thing to be careful about is if you refer to these parameters in the level below. You still need to specify the level User since it is still a user parameter. Now we can rename this node and save it as a macro. And I'm just going to overwrite the macro that we made in the previous video. So now next time that I'd like to set a subdivision, I don't need to worry about remembering how to name the parameters and the attributes. I don't even need to see the nodes that it contains. All I need to concern myself about is those parameters that are placed and chosen for this particular task. This is something that you can now apply yourself and think about how you could use a macro to make any processes that might be repetitive really easy. I hope you enjoyed this short series, and hopefully you now have a better understanding of macros and how they can be used.